Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today, and welcome to the AMI Connect event session here on AMI This Week. My name is Michelle Dudas, and I'm the senior producer here at AMI, and I'm very excited to be here to moderate the panel. But before we begin, I do have some housekeeping for everyone. For those of you who don't know very much about AMI or have some specific questions that you might want answered, how to find our channel, our app, or podcast, or channel is actually plural, you can visit the information booth in our exhibit hall at any time during and after each of our sessions today. On top of that, if you're encountering any technical issues that you need some assistance, you can just visit our info booth and a member of the BFairs team will assist you. Just so you know, all of today's sessions are featuring live closed captioning. So to access live closed captioning, please click on the closed caption button at the bottom of your Zoom window. Select Show Subtitle to turn them on. Select Hide Subtitle to turn them off. And you can adjust the font size and how the subtitles are shown in the subtitle settings. Also, just so you know, again, a little bit more housekeeping, you can visit the lounge to find links to our social media accounts and email address if you'd like to reach out. And lastly, there will be a prize awarded randomly to one of the attendees here today. I don't know what the prize is, but just by attending this session, you'll automatically be entered into the prize, into the draw, and winners will be contacted via email after the event. Okay, now without further ado, please allow me to introduce each of our reporters. I'm going to do this alphabetically. So first up, we have from Halifax, Laura Bain. Hi, Laura.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks. It's such a pleasure to be here. I am Laura Bain. I'm the Halifax Bureau reporter. And as the name implies, this is AMI Connect. So we really want to connect with you. So please ask us your questions. That's what our time here is for, is to answer those questions and tell you a little bit more about what we do.
Perfect. Thanks, Laura. Next up from the UK and currently residing in Edmonton, Alberta, we have Beth Deer. Hi, Beth.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here today. I think, just as Laura said, this is a really awesome time to just be able to connect with our audience, and maybe we haven't had this opportunity before. So yeah, once again, I am Beth. I'm in the Edmonton office, and I'm really excited to hear what you guys have to ask us, and I really hope that we get the chance to really connect with you guys.
Amazing. Thanks, Beth. From Vancouver, we have Grant Hardy. Hi, Grant.
Hey, guys. Really happy that you're all here. Thank you so much for watching and listening. I am coming to you from my home on a rare sunny day here in Vancouver, and really excited to share what we're doing with you.
Perfect. And then currently in Burlington, our Toronto Bureau reporter, Alex Smythe.
Hi, everyone. And as all my other counterparts have already said, this is AMI Connect. I'm really hoping that we can have the most interaction of any of the panels today. So I want to see those questions. I want to have people raising their hands. We want to hear from you, and we want to talk with you. So I'm looking so forward to get into it.
Thanks, Alex. And last but not least, the newest member of our Ottawa Bureau team, Chris Ballet. Chris.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chris. As Michelle said, I am the new kid on the block, so this is my first opportunity to connect with the AMI audience, so I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks, Chris. And one person who couldn't be with us today because she, poor her, is in Italy right now. She's currently getting ready to compete with her rowing team and hopefully win a spot to going towards the Tokyo Paralympics. So that's Victoria Nolan, the host of our show. And we wish her all the best. And again, she would be with us, here today if she could be. But I think she's got a pretty good excuse not to be. But anyway, as Laura and Alex both mentioned, we really do want to use this time to engage, with everyone here today. So if you have questions, you can either type it in the chat or you can raise your hand, your virtual hand, which you can find at the bottom of the screen as well. And again, we really do want to hear from you. So Grant, for those people, joining us who might not know anything about AMI this week, can you give us a little bit of just a short overview?
Yeah, so if you think of, a lifestyle magazine where you've got sections for food and sports and people and events and culture, AMI this week is a little bit like that. So it's a weekly magazine show produced right here at AMI with reporters from coast to coast, most of whom are blind or partially sighted or part of the disability community in some way. Our host, Vicky, as Michelle said, is a 3-time Paralympian, author, and motivational speaker who is partially sighted. And we share all kinds of stories about events, people, and places all across this wonderful country of ours. So what I really love about AMI this week is the variety. So one week you'll hear about a musician with a disability and an accessible tech product and maybe a fun way of relaxing. And the next week, it'll be about emergency prep and a profile on a Paralympian and a parenting tip. So it's just a really fun look at what's happening in your community reported on by people in the community, and there's something for everyone. And if you guys ever have ideas about incredible people or events or opportunities that need to be on air, including yourself, please reach out to us, because that is what this show is all about. It's shaped by folks in the community.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Grant. And Laura, why don't you talk a little bit about how how and I guess where we find our stories for the show?
Sure. Well, our stories can really come from anywhere and everywhere. And, you know, we generally, as production teams, it's us as reporters, a producer, and then a videographer. And those stories can come from anyone on the team. It's not, you know, just the producers or just the reporters that bring them forward. So one thing that I think is really important, especially in a place with a smaller population like Atlantic Canada, is that community connection. So that's something that we really look to build and to see what's going on in the community, whether that's through ongoing relationships or through making those connections on social media, just so we can kind of see, you know, is there something that's happening locally that would be of interest to a national audience? And, you know, sometimes it's experiences from our own lives as people with disabilities that will bring something forward to the team and turn it into a story. And then we're always just kind of, you know, keeping our ears and eyes and everything open just for what's going on that we think will be of interest.
Great. And Beth, why don't you tell everyone about our pitch process and how we do our pre-interviews and how again we basically do our pre-production.
Yeah, for sure. So I think it's really important to know that every team does do things a little bit differently. But for my team personally, we find our story and our interest, and we contact them. We then have kind of pre-interview chat with them, learn lots about them, what's their story, who they are, who are the important people in their lives that have helped you get to where they are. And then we slowly kind of compile all these things that we will then write into a storyboard. And we'll write out questions that we'd like to ask them and lots of different information. We will then usually share that with Michelle, and Michelle usually says, oh, this is an amazing story. You guys should definitely do this. And then, yeah, once Michelle's given us the go ahead, we then will contact those people again, and we'll, most of the time at the moment, unfortunately, we're arranging Zoom interviews. We'll arrange those interviews, we'll go ahead and do them. And then, you know, our videographers and editors will put them all together, and then you guys see them on TV.
Great, Beth. Alex, do you maybe want to talk a little bit about our shooting in the field and what that process looks like, and maybe some of the travel?
Yeah, for sure. So pre-pandemic, obviously, like we would be out in the field. Typically, for my experience with my team, it'd be at least once a week, maybe twice a week, and trying to travel all over, try to find the locations. If there's a event going on, well, we're gonna be there. We're gonna kind of come with our crews. We're gonna start kind of making our way through, finding what really stands out, and if it's a organization, well, we're gonna be there. We're gonna make sure that we're seeing the organizations in action, or we're going to be following along with certain people if we're doing a profile and going to where they are and really trying to capture that full story. But sometimes too, we have the opportunity to travel outside of our specific regions to go cover stories that are really interesting and that we feel need to be told. I remember a few years ago, I was fortunate enough to fly out when I was working in Edmonton, to fly out to Winnipeg for the Canada Deaf Games. And that was something that, you know, we haven't really done in a while. And so being able to get over to Winnipeg, to be able to tell that story was really quite fascinating. Now, unfortunately, over this past year and a half, we haven't been able to do that, but we're hoping that soon we'll be able to get out into the field more.
Well, Alex, you mentioned the pandemic, and actually it was one of the questions that's already popped up on the screen was, again, about filming during the pandemic. So Chris, do you maybe want to take that one and talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So I'm kind of in a unique situation, as in I was hired during the pandemic. So my only experience here at AMI has been sort of virtual shooting. I have been on one shoot, so I don't have that in-person experience as much as the other reporters do, but I can say that, of course, virtual anything presents its challenges, but having softwares like Zoom has allowed us to stay connected with not only our teammates in our individual bureaus, but also continue to tell stories of amazing people across the country. So I'm eager to get in the field and get a taste of what these other reporters have had, but at the same time, I'm grateful that we're still able to do our jobs effectively.
Absolutely.
Yeah, maybe I can jump in just here as well and share that as someone who is totally blind filming from home, it was super interesting because I was born without vision. And so I really have like very little concept of camera framing and, where the cameras are positioned. And, so I think of myself as someone who's really into technology and knows a lot about tech. But when we started filming from home over Zoom, just making sure that I was set up even with the correct camera so that you'd be looking at me instead of my blinds, and just having all that equipment in place and set up properly. It's been a really interesting and challenging experience.
Yeah, absolutely, Grant. Does anybody else want to share any thoughts on working from home during the pandemic?
Sure, I can jump in. I mean, for myself, sorry, Beth. Like at the start of the pandemic, I actually I was living in an apartment in Toronto, and I decided to move back in with my parents, save some money, and kind of have some more space to move around. And that's been interesting too, because trying to work and conduct interviews when my parents are in the background, they're working too. They gotta have access to their home.
Yes.
It is their home at the end of the day. But so it's been an interesting experience because I found we've almost gotten a bit more in sync with each other. We've gotten closer because we're connecting on this different level. We haven't had to all work around each other like this before. And, sometimes, as Grant says, we got to manage the equipment ourselves, the lighting, we got to set up the framing, the cameras and things like that. Sometimes I've enlisted my parents as part of my crew. They haven't been paid to be part of my crew, but they kind of get voluntold. So that's, for me, it's been such a unique experience, but one that, there's been a lot of positives I've been able to draw from this really challenging time too.
Great. Beth,
it's funny, Alex. Yeah, I will. Thank you. It's funny, Alex mentioning like he's kind of hired his parents in to be a part of his crew, because there's been a few things that our team's worked on since we've been filming stuff at home. And there's been several times where I've really needed someone else's help. And I am lucky that my boyfriend also works at home. So he's been able to kind of help me out a lot too when I've needed it. But I think it has been really challenging for everyone, obviously, in their own individual ways. And one thing in particular for me is when we used to film in the field, I would be mic'd up. And obviously that mic doesn't pick up a lot of excess noise. It mainly just picks up what I'm saying, which is awesome. Whereas at home, I haven't been using a mic. So Patronus snoring and breathing too loud has been a problem. Very often I will go to film and you can just hear this massive snoring in the background, and it's obviously my guide dog. But it's like, I think it's just funny how like we've all become so accustomed to it now, and it doesn't necessarily feel like we aren't working in a team, because I think for all of us, we are still so close with our teams. I think it's been very interesting, but I've definitely gotten used to it.
Yeah, I think there are definitely positives and challenges. Beth, you mentioned the noise. My fridge coming on and off has been the big noise, which is not something we typically deal with when we're shooting in the field. But also, I think it's opened up a lot of different story opportunities for us in terms of interviewing people who are in remote areas or places that we might only get to once or twice a year. So that part of it has been a positive.
Yeah, excellent point, Laura. I want to mention quickly before we continue that we got a really, really nice comment from Maureen. Maureen says, AMI this week is probably my favorite AMI show. The variety of the content, enthusiasm of the people on the show, and general positive perspective are so exhilarating. So thank you so much for that, Maureen. That's really nice
that's
of you to
really
share.
sweet.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
cheers,
so
Maureen.
much.
That's a lovely comment.
Yeah. So I'm just wondering, we talked a little bit about the field, and now that things are starting to open up a little bit, does anyone here want to talk a little bit about, again, just our safety precautions that we're going to be practicing while we're in the field working?
I can pick this one up
Sure.
if you want.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, I think like everywhere else in the world, AMI is heavily focused on our safety of their employees and the safety of people around us. So, it's hard to not see someone nowadays and give them a hug because you've been isolated and you just want to have that physical contact. But social distancing as well as PPE, proper PPE, and making sure that us employees as well as the interviewees are comfortable. So a lot of outside shoots is what we're kind of going to go to because the airflow and air circulation, that's all I know at the moment. But if anyone else wants to pick up from where I left off.
Yeah,
Well,
it's funny, as someone who's totally blind, it's been ingrained in me since I was a kid. Like, stick out your hand right away, to shake hands, so that you're kind of the first person to, there's no sort of awkward handshake. And the last few times we've been out on the field, I've had to really check myself, like, oh yeah, I'm not supposed to be shaking hands. So definitely, I think AMI continues to be a leader in employee and safety for our guests as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Laura. No, you go ahead.
I think that's a really good point, Grant. And I think that that's been part of why we've had a very cautious approach, and we're still doing some stories from home because we have some extra challenges in terms of, some of us reporters being blind or partially sighted, and those considerations with social distancing, and also with our guests. Some of them might need physical assistance to get a microphone on, or they might need sighted guide on the shoot. So looking forward to getting back in the field, and we've been doing some field reporting, but I think that that's something else that the company has really been taking into consideration, is how we can do it safely given the nature of what we do, and that it's maybe a little bit different than what some of the mainstream networks do.
Yeah, and then last point from me was just as part of our protocols too, we also have a checklist that we have to check in with not only ourselves but our guests before we actually get there, and even on the day, just making sure everyone's feeling healthy. There's no symptoms. Everyone's in the safest position. That's the last thing I wanted to.
No, absolutely. Thanks, Alex. And you're right. I mean, I think from even like the pitch process before we decide to move forward on a story, we are looking at, again, what is the best and most safe way to approach it? Is this better, for us to do virtually, or, is it safe for us to do this one in the field? So we are really looking at everything on a case-by-case basis. So thanks, guys. Again, we're really proud, and I know I'm certainly really proud, and we have had to pivot, and it's been difficult, but I don't think that our content has and the quality of our content has wavered at all, and I'm really proud of the work that everyone's doing. Just wondering from you guys, excuse me, why don't we just chat a little bit about some of maybe our favorite stories that we've produced over the last little while. Alex, do you maybe want to share one of your favorites?
Sure. So there's been so many, ones that I've really enjoyed is just being able to connect with different people from all over, as Laura said earlier, with working within the pandemic. I mean, being able to connect far reaching, like for me, one that I think of is when I was working on one for forest bathing, that I got to interview an expert from Japan. And that was only really possible because I was working from home, and Zoom had really kind of become popular amongst everyone. So being able to connect with an expert in Japan that I wouldn't have been able to normally if I was in the field. So that one was a really exciting one for me.
Great. Laura, what about you?
From anyone on the team, or one that
Sure,
yeah. Well, one that really stood out for me was from Grant recently did Mandy Harvey interview, and I had seen her perform live in New York a couple of years ago at the No Barriers Summit. And so I just thought you did a really nice job of that. I could really feel the connection that you had with her in the interview. We didn't really hear you much in that segment, but her answers were so forthcoming that I think that really speaks to you building that rapport with her. And of course, I liked with that one that you had the pivot, and then of course we had part two where she was interviewing you, and I thought that was different, and I liked seeing kind of your vulnerability there.
Absolutely.
Oh, thanks.
Grant, what about you? Do you have a favorite?
That was definitely one of my favorites that we've produced here on the team is Mandy, Harvey. You know, it's funny, we really ask a lot of our guests. We ask them to really open up about their innermost souls, and but it's not often that you get that reverse role where you're the interviewee. So it's kind of like, whoa, you're interviewing me all of a sudden, but it was great. Also, just having the opportunity to shoot with Google back in the fall, that was really fun too, because that's an example of a super remote story that we wouldn't have been able to do otherwise, talking about some accessibility happenings at Google. In terms of the team, you know, I really have a special place in my heart for those profiles of people who are blind and partially sighted, especially since birth. And that's why I would submit Chris's piece about Kim Kilpatrick, who does storytelling, work with kids, work in the community, you know, teaching tech and other skills to people who are blind or partially sighted in her community. I believe she was named a CBC Trailblazer in Ottawa for her accessibility work. And that was a really cool story. Love to see those empowering profiles.
Yeah, fantastic. Chris, I'm going to go to you now. What about you? Do you have any? I know you've only been with us a little while, but do you have any favorite stories?
Putting me on the spot here.
I know, sorry.
No, I'm kidding. In terms of my stories, I mean, I have a soft spot for every single one I've done. Like Michelle mentioned, I've only done pretty much a handful so far. In terms of my team members, one that stuck out to me was one of Beth's story. I think it's Sophia Leah's Mental Health magazine. It's a 15-year-old who, you know, is having these well-needed conversations around mental health. And it's something I resonated with because at her age, at the age of 15, I started my own newspaper. So it was something that I could connect with very well. But also, you know, we're in this period of isolation right now that a lot of people feel lonely. So having these well-needed conversations, especially from someone kind of driving the vehicle at 15 years old, it was just really impressive. And I like the connection between you two.
Fantastic.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I loved Sophia's story. And honestly, for a 15-year-old girl, she's so mature, and like she just has such an incredible sense of direction in terms of like what she wants to do. She knows her purpose, and she knows where she's going, which I think for anyone at any age is hard. I don't think many people have any idea what they want to do or where they're going in the future, but she really has her head screwed on, and she's so driven, incredibly driven.
Yeah, it was great to see.
Beth, do you have a favorite story?
I have lots of favorite stories that I've done personally over the last 2 years. It's actually 2 years today, I'm pretty sure, that I've been working at AMI.
Oh, wow.
I know how time flies.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. But one of my favorite stories is Alex. A few years ago at Christmas, Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's called the Cocoa Co Factory. Is that the name of it?
A Cocoa Co Christmas. Yep.
Yeah. So he did this story, and I just loved the way it was put together. So when Alex did this story, he was actually here in Edmonton working, but I obviously now work with the team that Alex used to work with, and Pat, our videographer, kind of the way he did it in the story was, instead of using voiceovers, they had Alex sat in front of a fire, and every time he would speak to kind of connect scenes, it was very like rhymey and Christmassy, and I just thought it was so fun. Like, Alex, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like that is maybe something that's a little bit out of your comfort zone, and you absolutely rocked it. Like, it was perfect. You should dress up as Father Christmas one year, because like honestly, I think you'd make a brilliant Santa.
Well, thank you, Beth. I appreciate that. I will say the rhyming is not the issue. It's selling the goofy rhymes was a bit of out of the comfort zone for me. And before we move on, I want to also give praise to one that Laura has done that I always go back to. Now this one is a bit older now, but every single time I think of stories that Laura has done, this one always pops back into my mind, and it is the Easter Seals I think it was the drop zone. This was like from 4 or 5 years ago at this point, but I really liked it because I felt we got to get a sense of your personality in the story, Laura, because it was all about doing basically rappelling down like a 25-story building in downtown Halifax as part of this fundraiser, and just kind of following you along as you're going through this process, from going up the elevator, feeling the nerves to it, to looking over the edge, realizing you shouldn't have looked over the edge, actually getting into the harness, and then finally come to, I just really enjoyed it. And to top it all off, you did it while wearing a Superman costume. I mean, what more is there that you need in the story?
Well, thank you, Alex. I have gotten to try a lot of things over my 5 years with AMI, and that has to be sort of one of the experiences that definitely sticks out to me, was rappelling down. I think it was a 28-story office building. It's the tallest office building in... It's
undersold it. 3 more stories. Yep.
Right. It's the tallest office building in Halifax. And I can tell you that Superman suit, it looked great, but it was a real miscalculation in terms of warmth, because it was about, well, it was less than 10 degrees that day, and it is cold when you go up like 30 stories in the air. So that was a cold climb down, but a great experience nonetheless.
I'm sure Michelle remembers the time. I think I'd only been working at AMI for about 3 weeks full time, and I did a zip line, and the GoPro camera fell off my head and was permanently broken. It's like, welcome to AMI, Grant. Damaged their equipment.
Things happen. What are you going to do, right? All good. Part of the process. I have another comment and question. So from Brian, he says, I really like the stories that you tell from all across Canada. Do you as reporters discuss story ideas with each other, or how do you know, or do you know what each other are working on?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know for myself, because we all are in separate regions per se, that we typically, well, and especially before the pandemic, we kind of kept to the stories that were reachable to us and within our communities. But working from home, I mean, it's allowed us to do stories and cover stories that are anywhere. And I know sometimes if I come across a story that would be really good in Halifax, because it's a story I find that's based in Halifax, I'll send that on to Laura. I think, Beth, I may have sent something to you earlier this week about a potential story idea. So I always find that because we're always on the lookout for new stories. So even if it doesn't fit within our schedule or our availability or our region, I always think that it's great to share it with the other teams, because there's still a reason for that story to be told, and it may just be another team telling that story.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Alex. Sorry, Grant. And yes, actually, the other day I did get an email from you about a story here in Edmonton. And I think we don't necessarily discuss stories between each other, but like Alex said, you know, if I find a really great story that's in Toronto, I'm definitely going to be emailing that to him. And I know I found a few before in Vancouver that I've sent to Grant and his team, and we definitely keep our eyes peeled, if you will, for stories for other people in the other teams. And I do apologize because I'm going to have to mute myself because my headphones died. So yes.
Oh no. Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where you can become so kind of focused on your own region, but especially as a lot of things are happening nationally, just stuff like, I don't know, for example, the CNIB, Vision Mate program, let's say. It could be that a couple teams are sort of working on that story. So I think it is really important to communicate probably more, and it's certainly an area for growth, but it is something that we are doing. And I think, as others have said, have really expanded that throughout the pandemic, when literally anything is possible. You don't have to do a story from your city.
Absolutely.
Michelle?
Oh, yes, Greg.
Sorry, just to jump in, we've got a couple people with raised hands. Do you mind if I unmute one and see what they have to say? No, that's okay. That's why I'm here. So Dorothy, I'm gonna unmute you. So get ready with your question. No.
I think, Greg, you allowed Dorothy to be unmuted, but Dorothy, you're still muted. So you need to unmute.
You have to unmute yourself, I guess. Okay.
There we go.
Oh, I guess that's me. I didn't realize I had raised my hand.
Do you have a question, Dorothy?
I'm a community reporter from Sault Ste. Marie. So
Nice
I love
you.
AMI.
Oh, cool.
But and I, I watch various programs off and on, but you've piqued my interest. So what I'm enjoying about today is I'm finding some things that I didn't know you did, and I didn't realize the variety, and I'm really intrigued. And I do have a question about smaller communities. So how often do you touch on stories in smaller communities? Because I live in Sault Ste. Marie, and I find, too often the media covers the big cities. And we in Northern Ontario feel isolated and left out often. So how do you cover those smaller communities and make sure that they're well represented?
And I think that's always been part of our mandate at AMI too, that, we're not just going to do everything out of sort of Toronto or Vancouver, that really getting at those very small regions is really important. And during the non-pandemic times, I've definitely made, not as many trips as we'd like, but a few trips out to smaller regions where we try and cover a lot of stories kind of back to back. During the pandemic, when things are a little easier to cover because it's remote, that just opens up a lot more doors. But it's definitely very important, and again, part of our mandate to focus on anywhere and everywhere across Canada.
Yeah, and I know we do, so each of our bureaus, even though it's situated in a capital city, we have a region. So for us here in Halifax, the office is in Halifax, but our region would be all of Atlantic Canada. So over the 5 years, I've been to all of the provinces and to many small communities. But to Grant's point, I think just logistically, we don't get there as much as we would like to sometimes. Sometimes it's a couple trips a year. So I think actually doing these stories virtually has allowed us to do that more. And that may be something that sticks around, where we have a mix of, when we can get somewhere in person, that's ideal. But if we can't, still covering those things that are happening in more remote and rural areas, with this option of the virtual interviewing.
Absolutely, Laura. Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, I kind of wanted to second Laura. Since I've been here in the last 2 years, we've tried our absolute best to make it out to places, but sometimes what we do as a team is we kind of accumulate stories. I know for us in Alberta, we have Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba as our region, and we'll kind of find 3 or 4 stories in Manitoba that we want to cover, and then we just hope that we can get out there and cover all those 3 or 4 stories while we are there. And I think this virtual time has really allowed us to speak to the smaller communities and do their stories justice too.
Absolutely. I just want to chime in. So Tracy just wrote, every blind or disabled person is not successful because we live on very limited incomes. We depend on programs like the ADP program in Ontario. Their funding model hasn't changed in the 26 years that I've been blind. Is anyone advocating for reforms to that? I'd be interested in that story. So I don't know, Chris, if you want to talk a little bit maybe about one of the stories that you're working on right now. That kind of touches on that a little bit.
Right. So we're currently in the process of focusing on ODSP and sort of the struggles that people on ODSP are having right now, specifically here in the Ottawa area. But I think people across Ontario can attest to this, or even maybe across Canada. Obviously, it's not ODSP because that's Ontario wide, but there's varying different programs across Canada. Yeah, I think, like you said, it's been very difficult for people to, I hate using this word, but survive. It's not much money, and a lot of them have to resort to using community programs in their communities. So we're going to be talking to an MPP as well as someone who is on ODSP to get a glimpse of what it's like and what needs to happen in order for it to change, because change needs to happen. It's just a matter of how do we do that, and when will it happen? Because people say it's going to happen, but here we are 5 years later and the change still hasn't happened. I don't know if that answers the question a little bit, or if it gives a bit of a glimpse inside what we're working on.
Yeah, a story that comes to mind for me out of Halifax that we did this past season was with an anti-poverty activist, Kendall, who was doing quite a bit of work just kind of in Nova Scotia to advocate for people on income assistance and for a basic income, a guaranteed basic income. You know, I would say you're absolutely right. It's something that all of us are aware of. Certainly there are many challenges that people with disabilities face. We are all people with disabilities, and many of the people we interview, of course, are people with disabilities. I would say it's sort of not the core focus of AMI this week, because we tend to do more community stories like on organizations and events and things like that. But I think it comes out. And I think we've also had the opportunity through our specials that our teams have worked on over the last couple of years to bring a lot of those important issues forward.
Yeah, I definitely can think of one of our next stories, which is about a project called the Insufficient Art Project, which really focuses on exactly this issue of, you know, what it's like to live on income and disability assistance and in poverty, not to mention a special we did a couple years back on the Vancouver housing crisis, where we really didn't shy away from talking about those difficult questions and those difficult issues. But I absolutely think that it is a critical issue to remember and reflect on, and something that I believe we do, which is that, you know, we don't want to cover just story after story that's inspiring, you know, and uplifting. We want to cover stories from the community, which are all kinds and definitely can include struggles that people are facing. Super important.
Yeah, they're well-needed conversations, and I think the fact that we're, you know, highlighting some of those things or planning to is very important for sure.
Absolutely. And guys, we only have a couple minutes left. And just to Laura's point, I just want to add that we did a pilot show. I don't know if anyone today participating has seen the show In Focus, but that really does focus more on, and you know, just I guess instead of, it's more issue based. It's not sort of just like personal stories or, again, you know, profiles of people. I mean, I guess we do talk about people, but again, it is more issue based, where we do cover some, you know, more sort of heavier topics. So that might be something that you might all enjoy. And it's coming next year. So I hope that you guys will tune into that when it does hit the airwaves. And you can find it on the first episode we did, which was on language and disability, on our website or app. But I think we might have time for one more question. So I was just going to ask you guys, you know, what is it that you enjoy most about your jobs?
I think it's, for me specifically, I'll go first, is being able to connect with so many people and give them a voice. I think that's the most important thing about this job, and the most important thing about having this platform here at AMI. Yeah, that's pretty much what I love about it the most. There's so many things I love as well, but that's the number one for me for sure.
Yeah, I would. Oh, sorry, Laura, go ahead.
I would tell you to go ahead, but then we're just going to get in a back and forth. We might all say the same thing here, because that's absolutely the case for me. It's been the people that I've had the opportunity to meet during my time at AMI that has been the absolute number one thing for me. All of the different organizations we've profiled, all of the different community members. It's fun to get to try different things, to go ziplining, to rappel down the side of a building, to try circus school. Those things are great, but really at the core, it's been the people that I've had an opportunity to connect with.
Yeah, and you're right, Laura. I think we probably are all going to say the same thing, because it is amazing to meet people and really hear their stories and be able to connect with them. Like, I always feel so privileged when I'm speaking to someone about such personal things and they feel comfortable to share that with me. It's just an honor every single day. But I would say also another thing I love about my job is my team. I have such a great team. Michelle is always so supportive of all the things that we want to do as a team. And like the people that you guys don't see on TV, like our videographers and producers, are all wonderful as well. So I think they definitely have to be something I love about my job too.
Yeah. In in addition to what everyone else has said, I've wanted to be in broadcasting since I got my Fisher-Price tape recorder when I was like 4. I feel just so incredibly lucky that I'm able to get my thoughts out there and share the message with viewers. But also what I love about ATW is the variety. I absolutely love how one day we're talking about tech, the next day we're talking about sports, and the day after that we're trying a new activity. So that's really what I love about this job, is just the incredible variety of things that I've gotten to do and cover.
Alex, I'd love to give you a word, but I've got to wrap things up. I'm so sorry, guys. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us. I do just really quickly, because I know that we have a lot of our videographers and producers on this call right now, so I want to make sure I give them a shout out too, because they're amazing, and I'm so proud again of all of you. Thank you for all of the hard work that you do. And for those again who are tuning in, up next we have the Green Lighting TV, where you can learn about AMI's production process. So I hope that you tune in for that. Thanks so much again for joining us. We really appreciate it, and thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.